The Western genre has its fair share of traditional heroes, but the genre is better known for providing us with some of the most iconic anti-heroes on both the big and small screen. It's arguably these figures that make the genre so appealing to film and television fans looking for authentic characters with moral ambiguity and emotional depth. Since the days of Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name, the so-called heroes in Western movies have tended to be just as terrifying as the villains. But the first anti-heroes in TV westerns actually predate Eastwood's iconic character from Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy. Indeed, two of the characters on this list first appeared on-screen in the late 1950s. The attraction of anti-heroes is that, unlike straightforward heroes, they're fallible and worthy of criticism, which makes them more relatable as characters. They even share some qualities with traditional villains, whilst still remaining likable. Anti-heroes have another key advantage over genuine antagonists, in that they tend to get far more screen time. Even the best villains in Western TV shows tend to come and go within the space of a single season. In fact, many classic Westerns had a different villain every episode. By contrast, the best Western anti-heroes are irreplaceable and ever-present. 10. Tommy Norris, Landman played by Billy Bob Thornton. As Billy Bob Thornton revealed in an interview about Landman last year, Taylor Sheridan actually wrote the part of Tommy Norris in his voice. That makes perfect sense when you watch the show, as the part of Norris fits Thornton like a glove. His titular oil merchant is hard-talking with a crude sense of humor, and he isn't afraid to involve himself with criminals to get the deal he wants. At the same time, Tommy Norris is highly charismatic and impossible not to love, as much as we might question a lot of his actions, and wonder where he left his moral scruples. 9. Calamity Jane, Deadwood played by Robin Wyatt. When it comes to crudity and tough talking, however, Tommy Norris has absolutely nothing on arguably the most entertaining Western character this century. One of Deadwood's most prominent historical figures, Calamity Jane is a foul-mouthed gunslinger who embodies a very different kind of frontier spirit from the one espoused by traditional Western heroes. Played with supreme comic timing by Robin Wyatt, Jane completely subverts the typical gender dynamics of the Western genre with bawdy abandon. Deadwood without her would be a much darker, less colorful series, and the residents of its titular Gold Rush town would arguably be worse off, too. 8. Roy Good, Godless played by Jack O'Connell. Godless is one of the few Western TV shows that are pretty much perfect from start to finish. A miniseries based on different true story elements of Western American history, it centers on a fictional town run almost entirely by women following a deadly accident at the nearby mine. In a cast of characters dominated by women, Roy Good stands out. Jack O'Connell's antihero rides into town exhibiting all the tropes of a protagonist in classic westerns of decades gone by. He's on the run from a murky past, and initially reluctant to help the women of La Belle. However, his steely resolve in the face of danger and fearsome reputation as a sharpshooter end up being essential to their cause. 7. Brett Maverick, Maverick played by James Garner. Maverick's central antihero is primarily responsible for some of the best Western TV show episodes of all time. Far from the prototype of genre classics, Brett Maverick isn't an all-action gunslinger. Instead, he gets by on the strength of his wiles, conning many an opponent out of their gambling kitty. Thanks to Maverick's deceptive charm and unerring ability to misdirect his way out of the tightest jam, the show he fronted was a far more cerebral affair than the average Western, and effortlessly blended elements of comedy into its thrilling storylines. James Garner's portrayal of the smoothest cowboy in the Old West rightly turned him into a major star. 6. Beth Dutton, Yellowstone played by Kelly Riley. The most complex and multifaceted character in Taylor Sheridan's flagship TV Western, Beth Dutton is also Yellowstone's most quotable character, and the protagonist ultimately responsible for the climactic moment in its finale episode. Actor Kelly Riley does a great deal of the show's heavy lifting throughout the series, as her character walks a line between hero and villain throughout. She somehow makes Beth the most sympathetic of the Dutton household, even though she's responsible for some of their most reprehensible actions. It's difficult to stomach her treatment of adoptive brother Jamie Dutton, but even this aspect of the character is understandable in the context of a harrowing flashback sequence. 5. Cullen Bohannon, Hell on Wheels played by Anson Mount. A decade before Anson Mount's role in Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, he played one of the Western genre's greatest anti-heroes, Cullen Bohannon. Cullen has all the makings of a genuine villain, from his past fighting for the Confederacy to his thirst for vengeance. But he's relatable and easy to like from the very beginning of Hell on Wheels. His character development comes to reflect the journey of the Union Pacific Railroad's construction. From his indulgence in corruption and lawlessness to falling for a migrant laborer he comes to work alongside, and chasing her across the ocean, Cullen Bohannon himself is the essence of the show's redemption story. For Josh Randall, Wanted, Dead or Alive played by Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen's breakout role in Wanted, dead or alive is everything his big-screen superstardom would become. Josh Randall manages to combine the head and the trigger-happy hand of a cold-blooded bounty hunter with the heart of a hopeless romantic. His Vian Tanner from The Magnificent Seven, The Great Escape's Cooler King, Thomas Crown, and Frank Bullitt all rolled into one. It's worth noting that Wanted, Dead or Alive served as a particularly early example of this character archetype, which had only featured in a handful of major movies before McQueen first appeared as Randall. 3. Ol Swearingen, Deadwood played by Ian McShane. If Deadwood is still many people's pick for the best TV western, then Ol Swearingen is a major reason why. Ian McShane's antihero is a notorious criminal who runs his town's main brothel, and murders with his bare hands on multiple occasions throughout the series. Yet, he comes across more as a lovable rogue than a contemptible villain, in part thanks to McShane's humorously charismatic performance, but mainly due to his unholy alliance with Deadwood's sheriff Seth Bullock. What's more, there are far more unseemly characters in the show than Swearingen, who plays a key role in confronting many of them. 2. Paladin, Have Gun, Will Travel played by Richard Boone. Have Gun, Will Travel's Paladin is the most iconic Western character of his day. An educated gentleman from Boston, who moonlights as a chess player when he isn't serving as a hired gun, Richard Boone's character somehow combines erudition with the ruthless streak of a mercenary killer. No ordinary Western character, Paladin was arguably the first anti-hero in the history of the Western genre. He remains one of the most distinguished, too, and there hasn't been anyone else quite like him since his 6-season run on network TV finished 62 years ago. 1. Raylan Givens, Justified played by Timothy